Welcome into the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve. Wiltfong, Thursday, December 4th, and I'm your host, Josh Newberg. As you know, yesterday was the start of the 2026 signing period. Remember, December 3rd, yesterday, signing day. That's the first day that you can sign, but the window stays open for 3 days. So I know it feels like yesterday was the only day you can sign, but like I said, it's really just the first. So we have more to cover. We got some major developments to talk about today. Lots to tackle on the Wiltfong Whip Around. Excited to talk to Steve. You guys saw it in action yesterday if you were watching our live. Nobody in this industry broke more news than my guy Steve yesterday, and we are not done. Got some big news for you today, but first, do me a favor, hit subscribe. I know we got to 100K, but we're going to get to 200K, so I am thankful for you guys and this channel. We're going to have some fun today. Let's bring in Steve Wiltfong, and we're going to talk about LSU. We're going to start this thing with LSU looking to sign its prize defensive line class, number 1 overall, Lamar Brown. He's yet to ink his LOI, Steve. What's going on with the number 1 athlete in America?
Well, Lamar Brown, 5-star, going to play defensive line on the next level. He's not enrolling early, so he does not have to rush his college the finality of his college decision. I still think he's going to end up with LSU. Just waiting to see what defensive coordinator Blake Baker does. He's in the mix for a couple head coaching jobs. See who the next defensive line coach is going to be. If they need a new defensive coordinator, who that's going to be? Is Frank Wilson still going to be on staff? Those are all things that he's just waiting on. But LSU has this thing inside the 5 still, and I expect Lamar Brown to be a Tiger when all's said and done.
All right, don't fumble at the goal line. Now I said LSU is looking to sign its prize D-line class, not just its prize D-line men. So what about Richard Anderson, Deuce Jarrard, and Trenton Henderson?
So Richard Anderson, another 5-star, number 1 defensive lineman in the country. He is enrolling early. So his camp has been working with Billy Glasscock in the LSU camp, and that thing is just getting buttoned up right now, but looks like he will be one of the jewels of this LSU class and putting pen to paper in the near future.
Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson.
Lamar Brown there, of course, but he has to hasten his process because he's enrolling early. Right. LSU is the only school that they're talking with right now.
Are they rep by the same agent?
Same agency.
Same. So is this a leverage play, or is this really about coaching staff?
Well, talking to the camp of the kids, it's about what's Blake Baker going to do? Who's the D-line coach going to be? And is Frank Wilson going to be involved? Just small things, minutia. I know those seem like big things, but for Anderson, it was just said to me that they're just buttoning up a few things after talking to his agent this morning.
Now, what about Deuce Jarrard's talented defensive lineman and Trenton Henderson, another pass rusher that is very coveted?
So Deuce Jarrard isn't going to announce his college decision until Friday, and there is a chance he flips elsewhere. Talking with colleague Chad Simmons this morning, he's got eyes on Ole Miss. His father played at Ole Miss. Pete Golding staying at Ole Miss. There's those connections with the Rebels program. Georgia Tech is also heavily involved and can make a big NIL play down the stretch. Maybe he sticks with LSU too. You know, he's got a lot of family from Baton Rouge. That's where his dad's from. He maintained that he was consistent with LSU all through the coaching change, but here at the end, a couple schools have popped up.
And then Trenton Henderson, if I remember correctly, I think it was like the Florida Gators and LSU, maybe A&M in there involved. Is Trenton Henderson looking around, or is he just dotting I's?
Well, Chad Simmons talked to Trenton Henderson's coach this morning. He said that Miami had been trying to come on hard down the stretch, mentioned Florida State as well. And colleagues in our company have reason to believe that Texas is a program that is swinging late as well.
Are you surprised that this entire defensive line class is kind of in flux right now and not signed after the first day of the signing period?
I don't know if surprise is the right word. Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson, I expect to be in the class. Deuce Jarrard's anything can happen. And Trenton Henderson's still getting a feel for it. Miami, Florida State, those are schools that kind of popped up on the radar this morning. And Texas is throwing out big numbers here at the end of the cycle.
All right. Well, we already saw one defection. That happened this morning. There were rumors that Dylan Purter, safety commitment for LSU, could flip to UF. He did so this morning. What went down there? Was this what happened?
I just think that was a case of Florida being able to capitalize. Coach Summerall, his Louisiana connections,
Mm-hmm.
getting in there with that new coaching staff, he felt very comfortable with that opportunity.
Okay. Any other additions for LSU? I mean, generally speaking, Lane Kiffin hits the ground running. There could be some relationships, just like you said, with John Summerall, able to flip Herder. What about Lane Kiffin and his relationships? Could there be any other late flips down the stretch?
Well, they were close to flipping Mark Bowman yesterday, but USC was able to keep him in the fold.
Whoa.
Landon Duckworth, four-star quarterback, was one that they were heavily pushing for and looked like they even grabbed the momentum for on Wednesday. Duckworth was supposed to send in his papers to South Carolina Wednesday morning before announcing later in the week. He didn't do that. LSU grabbed the momentum, but Hayes Fawcett reporting this morning that Landon Duckworth will stick with South Carolina and sign with the Gamecocks at 2 o'clock. So,
All right. Well, try to find some positive news in this LSU segment, and it seems like Havon Finney is locked in with the Tigers. That was big news out of California last night.
absolutely. A lot of the same things that Lamar and Richard are going through, just making sure that the coaching staff finding out as much information as they can about what the potential coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball can be.
All right, LSU fans, how are you feeling about the day yesterday? How are you feeling about this class? How are you feeling about these recent developments on the defensive line? What do you think of all this? Talk to us in the comment section below. Let's talk a little Ohio State recruiting and the latest. We got to get the latest on Rivals. Number 1 wide receiver Chris Henry Jr. put out a tweet last night that he is thinking about things. What does all this mean?
Well, it means that Oregon has a shot to flip them, and Texas is coming on hard, and no one is sleeping on USC lying in the weeds despite what's coming out of the Trojans camp right now. So we'll see what continues to happen as Chris Henry's process continues. Relationships matter to him. That's why he stuck with Ohio State and his commitment dating back to 2023 and planned to sign with the Buckeyes yesterday morning before news broke that Brian Hartline was taking the head coaching job at USF. That shook Chris Henry Jr. per a source. He obviously didn't sign. Sources behind the scenes indicated that Oregon has started to position themselves as a school to beat. He has a great relationship with Dan Lanning. Receivers a position of need for the Ducks. And from an NIL standpoint, Oregon, has an exciting opportunity in play. Later in the day, Pete Nakos was first to confirm that Texas put a big number on the table. I talked to a source after that said that offer really resonated. So we'll see where the dust continues to settle. Talked to an Ohio State source this morning, said nothing new on their end from yesterday's developments, but obviously the Buckeyes and Ryan Day pushing to keep Chris Henry Jr. in the fold while also preparing for the Big Ten championship, number 1 versus number 2 against the Hoosiers here in Indianapolis on Saturday.
When do you think he wants to make a decision by Friday?
Well, I think he'd like to make the decision as soon as possible. He was going to sign with Ohio State on Wednesday morning and be done with the process. He was one of the first prospects to emerge in the 2026 cycle, committed to Ohio State early, but still went through his process, visited Oregon numerous times, has had dialogue with USC. Texas is in the mix here. So I think whenever he's able to dot the I's and cross the T's and make the decisions, he'll do it. He's just working through his process right now.
When did Texas get involved? I mean, we've probably done over a dozen videos on Chris Henry Jr., and we've never mentioned Texas. Beyond the bag that they put on the table late, is there a relationship there at all?
Let's talk game time. The NFL season is in the playoff push. College football conference title games are this weekend, and you want to attend these massive ball games with your friends and family, but tickets aren't going to be easy to find. And getting deals on last-minute tickets can be frustrating when all you want to do is be there for when your favorite team runs out on the field. Well, thankfully, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing ticket experiences, and it only takes a few simple clicks. The app is easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay, and you can even get NFL games for as low as $100. That's why I use the Game Time app. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. So here's what we're going to do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code WILTFONG, 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 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's Wiltfong, $20 off game time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, I didn't know this, but their receivers coach, per Eric Nalen, went to Mater Day. Texas has had Chris Henry on the radar, but they were never considered a major contender. Miami was another program in the mix, but they came heavy yesterday, per Pete Nakos. And then I talked to a source not long after that said the heavy resonated. So we'll see where the dust settles with Chris Henry Jr.
All right, all eyes on the number one wide receiver. We'll see what happens. We'll keep reporting on that. Now, what was the recruit reaction to yesterday's Brian Hartline news?
Well, I think the receivers were stunned because they were so excited to play for him, what he's been able to do to help develop Ohio State receivers and not only prepare them to be drafted high, but prepare them to step into the NFL and be ready to compete at a high level in their rookie seasons. And so they were happy for Coach Hartline, but disappointed for their own reasons because they wanted to play for him. And then they were just very surprised of the development. And so Jaquaden Guilford, number one player in the state of Indiana, he didn't sign yesterday as well. LSU offered earlier in the week. Lane Kiffin and that staff recruited Jaquaden Guilford really hard at Ole Miss and nearly had him in a back and forth with the Buckeyes. I think, talking to sources yesterday, it was still lining up for him to stick with Ohio State, but today's a new day.
All right, so the Buckeyes were able to add to that top 5 class, flipping one from an ACC foe. That was some good news. How were they able to get that done?
Yeah, Caden Gebhardt. Ryan Day never stopped recruiting him. Ryan Day's son, RJ, and Caden have played Pee Wee football for years together. He's local, 20 minutes down the road from the national champs, he said. Getting to play for the best program in the country around his family and friends, that became important to him at the end of the cycle. Had a terrific senior year, over 100 tackles, flies to the football, forces turnovers, just a physical, tone-setting guy from the third level. Ryan Day personally recruiting Caden Gebhardt down the stretch, and they get him in the fold, flipping him from Clemson.
All right. And then we saw Caden Dixon-Wyatt complete the flip to USC. You predicted that one about 3 days prior to, so that should have been no surprise for Ohio State fans. But we did see Legend Bay flip from Tennessee to Ohio State about 3 weeks ago. Very exciting news for Ohio State fans. But yesterday, he flipped back to Tennessee. What happened there?
Well, that came as a surprise to Ohio State. And talking to some sources around the Buckeyes, they thought that Legend wanted to attend Ohio State, but as he talked it over with his family, there was a feel that Tennessee and what they put on the table was a better opportunity, and he ends up being a Vol. Was committed to Tennessee early in the process, loves the offense, loves Coach Pope, and what his potential is. They beat Texas A&M in what was a back and forth in the summer. Ohio State flips them. Tennessee hangs in there, got him back in the fold, which softens the blow for them of losing Salisi Moa to Utah later in the evening.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk to Ohio State fans here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about Chris Henry Jr.? Put the number in the comment section below. There's several elite wide receivers that remain unsigned. I know on signing day, all the hubbub was about number one wide receiver Chris Henry Jr. not putting pen to paper with Ohio State, but there was others. 5-star Jalen Lott committed to Oregon. 5-star Jace Matthews committed to Auburn. 4-star wide receiver Calvin Russell, Syracuse. Jaquaden Guilford, Ohio State. Brady Marchese, Georgia. I mean, Steve, if you're in need of a wide receiver, there are still several out there. All right, 5-star wide receiver Jace Matthews. No surprise here. He's an Auburn commitment. Coaching change there. Jace Matthews kind of up for grabs. Doesn't sign on Wednesday. What are you hearing on Matthews?
Well, we still like Auburn. Chad Simmons and I, longtime commit to the Tigers, but LSU and Ole Miss, he said, are pushing hard and giving him a lot to think about going into Friday's decision.
Okay, yeah, so he's set to decide Friday. Now, 4-star wide receiver Calvin Russell, Miami Northwestern, had one of the craziest commitments of the summer when he committed to Syracuse over Miami and Michigan. And since then, we've covered Calvin Russell's visits to Miami, but you reported several weeks ago that Miami was no longer pursuing Calvin Russell. So yesterday he doesn't sign. there's a lot of rumors about who would even take Calvin Russell right now. What do you think happens? Does he end up at Syracuse? Why didn't he sign with them to begin with? What's going on with his recruitment?
A source close to Calvin thinks that he ultimately sticks with Syracuse, his love of Fran Brown and helping get that program back on track. Marcus Benjamin was around it from rivals in South Florida on Wednesday, and he said Florida State, and Miami are also in play. I don't think Miami's in play, so we'll see if that's real with Florida and Florida State.
Yeah, you've been pretty adamant about the Miami stuff for a while now, and I know the guys at Kane Sport feel the same way, so we'll see what the options are. But, yeah, it looks like he'll end up at Syracuse. Four-star wide receiver Jerquaden Guilford committed to Ohio State. Does this have to do with losing Brian Hartline?
Absolutely. Again, he was shocked by it. I think that's developing for him to still stay at Ohio State, but he does have a relationship with Lane Kiffin and that staff. Ole Miss nearly won his verbal in the summer before he decided to go with the Buckeyes, and what was a bit of a back and forth. But as of Wednesday evening, it still looked like he would ultimately stick with Ohio State.
All right. And then you got four-star wide receiver Brady March. He's committed to Georgia for some time now, and it didn't seem like there was any concern over him signing on Wednesday. We hadn't been talking about him very much at all, but he does not put pen to paper. What's going on?
An electric playmaker from the Peach State. He nearly flipped to Michigan in June. I think Michigan gets it done here in December. Very big position of need for Michigan as they try and put some weapons around Bryce Underwood. This is one of the fastest playmakers in SEC country. Michigan is trending to go down to Georgia and flip him from the Dogs.
All right, so Brady March, of this group, who do you think is most likely not to sign with the team that they're committed to right now?
Most likely Brady. I think he's definitely going to Michigan.
Okay, there you go. All right, you guys talk to us. Where do you think some of these top wide receivers are going to end up? Will they sign with the teams that they're committed to, or do you see them making another decision? And what about Calvin Russell? Where's his landing spot? Talk to us, comment section below. Top 10 quarterback battle was going down to the wire, and right before you and I sat down to tape this, Rivals 300 quarterback Landon Duckworth has made another commitment to South Carolina. Yes, back in July, he committed to South Carolina right here on this channel, having previously been committed to South Carolina. Landon Duckworth is now once again committed to South Carolina. How did South Carolina get this done for the third time?
Well, he obviously has a lot of love for Coach Beamer and his opportunity to play for him in the Gamecocks program. LSU built up a lot of buzz on Wednesday morning, and it looked like he was close to flipping to the Tigers, but the Gamecocks were able to keep into communication. They were expecting his LOI Wednesday morning, bright and early. It did not come. That's because LSU did have the momentum, but South Carolina able to get back in touch with Landon Duckworth and calm the storm. And Hayes Fawcett put out the news this morning that he plans to sign with South Carolina at 2:00. So this could be a big day for the Gamecocks. Landon Duckworth, obviously one of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the country, has a lot of upside as a passer. And 3 commitments to South Carolina shows you that the love and trust that he has in Shane Beamer in the direction of this program.
Exactly. I don't view this as he's wavering. I view this as he might be the most committed quarterback in America. What other quarterback has made 3 commitments to the same program? Not Jarrard Curtis, you know?
Same program. You do have to waver.
Yeah. All right. Might not be the only late addition for South Carolina, Steve. They are cooking. They could add elite edge Julian Walker. He did not sign with Michigan, and I don't know if we're keeping score here. Did Julian Walker end up taking more visits to South Carolina this season than he did Michigan?
Sure, but it's proximity right down the road. His dad's a strength coach at South Carolina, but the momentum does look to be with the Gamecocks. Talking to a source this morning, Michigan and North Carolina certainly still in play and battling.
All right. Any other additions for South Carolina before it's all said and done?
I think they'd be very happy getting Landon Duckworth's papers today and then getting Julian Walker to flip and get his papers in today as well.
Let's talk Michigan. The big news yesterday was Savion Hyder did not sign a letter of intent. As of Thursday morning at 10 a.m., Steve, is Savion Hyder, the number 1 running back in America's letter of intent in with Michigan?
Yep, Michigan got it bright and early, and it was never really in doubt. From my standpoint, I heard it was just some minutia contract jargon, and Savion Hyder, the moment he committed to Michigan, never wavered on his decision to be a Wolverine. Great communication with the staff, obviously visited a couple times since his commitment. He is locked in, ready to push one of the more talented running back rooms in the country.
Yeah, that's great. I just have a hard time believing it's dotting I's and crossing T's when he's been committed for months. Now, there is a buzz that the delay maybe had to do. Last week, Michigan reached out to Justice Haynes and he might come back. Did you hear anything about that when it came to Savion Hyder's delay?
That didn't come across my desk. The conversations that I had with people about it is that it was purely a contract, just contract jargon.
Okay. What about edge Julian Walker? Is he in yet?
He is not in and could end up elsewhere. South Carolina is kind of the sense people have this morning. North Carolina still swinging. Michigan doing all they can to keep him in the fold. But after having him last weekend with his mom and him saying the right things, but going home, not signing, still having conversation with his family, it does look like it's trending elsewhere.
All right. Now, did Michigan do enough at the wide receiver position in this class? Just bouncing around their message board, it seems like fans are a little disappointed at the wide receiver haul. What do you think?
Well, they held off Virginia Tech at the end to keep Travis Johnson in the fold, top Rivals 300 recruit that I think has some very dynamic playmaking ability. They also landed Jalen Pyle out of the Lone Star State, a very productive playmaker from the state of Texas. And Brady Marchese still in play, a top 125, 150 recruit from the Peach State, been committed to Georgia for a long time, nearly flipped to Michigan in June, now trending to flip to Michigan today. And so that gives the Wolverines three guys that have some dynamic playmaking ability. They're going to hit the portal hard at the position. The first name that obviously comes to mind is former Michigan State wide receiver, in-state product Nick Marsh, and just expect Michigan to be a major player at that position in the portal as they look to put more weapons on the perimeter around quarterback Bryce Underwood.
What about Calvin Russell, the elite wide receiver down in South Florida, did not sign with Syracuse? Is Michigan still making him a priority?
Have not heard that. I think it's Brady Marchese and done with the class.
All right, Michigan fans, what do you think? Did the Wolverines do enough at the wide receiver position? Why do you think Savion Hyder delayed that decision? And who is your biggest need in the portal? Put it in the comment section below. Let's talk about Notre Dame. We got a major development going down right now in South Bend. We talked a lot of Notre Dame yesterday as the 2026 class came to a close. And before we get to the big news, I want to talk, we had Mike Martin on the show, Notre Dame GM, really interesting guy. And all the commitments are signed. I know on this show we've been talking about a lot of guys that did not sign, but Notre Dame inked them all. Not only did they ink them all, there was zero decommitments during the cycle. You know, Steve, how do you make sense of this? How is Notre Dame able to do something that we just don't see a whole lot of in modern recruiting?
Marcus Freeman had nothing to worry about on National Signing Day, maybe the only head coach in America. I talked to my wife on the way home from Nashville yesterday, and she said Marcus Freeman was on the Today Show yesterday. So that was what he was able to do on Wednesday with his class being so rock solid. He's on the Today Show talking to mainstream American housewives across the land, while other coaches are fighting to keep guys in the fold, get guys signed, flip guys. Marcus Freeman's on the Today Show with Al Roker, man. So it's a testament to the quality of guy that they recruited that fits Notre Dame's culture. The guys that Mike Martin talked about it on our show yesterday that choose hard, right? Notre Dame's a place that has high academic expectations, but Marcus Freeman tells recruits embrace that. And they graduate their student athletes at Notre Dame. They give them the support they need to graduate from such a prestigious program. Those were the guys that wanted to come to Notre Dame to chase a national championship, to chase being an All-American, and then be the best version of themselves off the field. Some of those recruitments were slobber knockers on the trail, some tough back and forths. But ultimately, once those guys committed, they were locked in. They all signed. And it's the best Notre Dame recruiting class of my time covering recruiting. I've been at this over 20 years, and I started my career at the South Bend Tribune in August of 2000. So been around this Notre Dame football program for a long time. On paper, this is the best recruiting class that Notre Dame has ever signed. The defensive back haul is the best in the country. Joey O'Brien and Rivals #1 corner Kerry Adams and Aiden Pouncey headline that group. It's maybe the best defensive line group in the country, headlined by Rodney Dunham and Ebenezer Ewatati. It's a special group. They have the top tight end in the country, Ian Premer, and it is a very talented group at the wide receiver position, led by Kadon Finley from the Lone Star State. Devin Fitzgerald is another gem in that class as they try and find more dynamic guys on the perimeter. One of the top running back classes in America. It is loaded from top to bottom right now, #2 class in the land.
And they might not be done because you are reporting on some major news. We're going to talk about Teddy Jarrard. He's one of the crown jewels of the 2027 class. So you're like, Josh, why are you talking about 2027? Well, at 6'3", 200 pounds, Rivals ranks him as the #5 quarterback in that class. But he might not be in that class for long. Steve, could he be joining the Irish's 2026 #2 ranked class? Inside scoop listeners, it's time to talk Roebuck. And there's only one way to describe Roebuck. It's best fit, best feel. And for those who aren't familiar with Roebuck, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roebuck has released my favorite with their new licensed game day collection. It is now our favorite. They have polo designs, clean hoodies, quarter zips, and really it goes with all your favorite team schools. It's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roebuck's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're both super comfortable. I have them. They have an elastic waistband, a great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice looking short, but they are comfortable for a day on the move. Roebuck has also proudly been leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So here's what we're going to do. Use promo code Josh on Roebuck.com for a generous 20% off all new customers through the end of this week. That's RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code Josh.
Yeah, Mike Singer had the news first this morning from Blue and Gold Illustrated, but I talked to Teddy Jarrard's father, and he said things are in motion for his son, Rivals #5 ranked quarterback in 2027, to reclassify to the 2026 cycle. He was the top quarterback, in my opinion, at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge over the summer with his ability to throw the football accurately all over the football field. Notre Dame proposed the opportunity to him. Now, he said that there were opportunities with Ohio State and Indiana in the last cycle to do the same, and said that Curt Cignetti was really pushing for that. But now that he's committed to Notre Dame, they're having talks with the staff about what it looks like to get that done. He's got some academic work to do now to make it happen, but the plan is for him to reclassify and sign in February during the late signing period.
Okay, so he wouldn't be an early enrollee, which isn't a huge deal. He would enroll in the summer. Would there be any change to his recruitment if this happens or if it doesn't happen?
No, he's pure. I mean, he is locked in with the Irish. This is getting things done to enroll early at Notre Dame.
All right. Well, we will continue to watch that, but that is one major development happening right now in South Bend. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. Thank you, Steve.